So injured don't mean like workplace injury or nothing. Because I'm thinking like, no. Lie about me. It's injured because you hurt me. Because they didn't hurt you hurt my pockets.
Yes.
Hurt your pockets, yeah.
Yes.
Because they named that form right. Or if you done got our whole refund garnished because of your back child support, I'm finna injure you.
Right.
She said I'm single, boo. I just hope you single too. But I ain't tripping, I'm just out having a drink or two. I replied, what's up? Baby, let me fill that cup. You finally sell, only time will tell if you gon' get.
Welcome to another Degree Single segment, and thank you for listening. I'm so excited to be hosting the first segment of 2021. If you're not familiar with the concept of Degree Single, I'll reintroduce it. Degree Single is a platform that I launched in the summer of 2020, which focuses on the experiences and perspectives of different relationship dynamics with a special emphasis on singleness. Degree Single has grown to include a website with articles, a YouTube channel, and a social media presence. Part of my feedback from readers and viewers was about a podcast, but I felt like a podcast was more than I was looking to take on at that time. But I did develop a happy medium, and that is Degree Single segments. These will consist of concise conversations with guests or just my own personal thoughts about different topics. And I'm happy to introduce my first pair of guests for this year. So you two have already made history, like my guests for the very first segment ever in 2020. You all are my very first guests ever for 2021. So kudos and cool, like for that being that distinction. So, and like my very first guest, you all are also a married couple. So it's kind of interesting for it to be Degree Single. I keep having all these married people on. So the inclusivity and the diversity of the platform. So everyone, please welcome Derek and Renee Jones. Thank you both. Yes, hey, thank you both for being my first guest of the year, my historic guest. And I'll allow you both to introduce yourselves now and just let listeners know a bit more about you.
Okay. Well, my name is Renee Jones. Of course, Derek Jones's wife. I'm a NICU nurse here in Tupelo, Mississippi, and the co-founder of TaxMates LLC.
Yes. And I'm Derek Jones, Renee's husband, and I'm currently a PhD student in mathematics at Mississippi State. I'll be finishing up in May, so that's a good thing. And I am also the co-founder of TaxMates LLC, and our mission is to teach financial literacy and education to the people of Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Mississippi currently ranks 49th in financial literacy. So our goal was to create this business in order to promote financial literacy throughout Mississippi to help us in society and to gain a presence in the United States, especially among African Americans.
Right. Oh, yes, everything. And, we're going to dive much, much deeper into you all's mission and the goal of your work. But first of all, shout out to being a NICU nurse and a PhD student in mathematics. Listen, y'all some brainiacs over there, because look, you talking about two professions and levels of work and study that knocks a lot of people out along the way, being a NICU nurse and then a PhD in mathematics. Like, I still be helping people with 8th grade math. And when we grown, that. So it's like, made it as far as a PhD after my college level math. It's just, I don't even remember the math from grad school. With college level, I had enough. Okay, so shout out to both of y'all on top of your undertaking as business owners, because we know that's an endeavor in itself. You both have like challenging careers and education endeavors. So y'all just amazing over there. Look, if y'all ever looking to adopt, I am adoptable. Yeah, I'll take it up with Mama Hearn. So, of course, we all know that tax time is approaching. Well, technically, it's already here. So, and I know that Christmas is an exciting time, but I would argue that for a lot of people, tax time is the most wonderful time of the year. Well, if you get a refund, right? Yeah, some people would just be glad not to owe nothing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but even if they're not getting a large refund, as long as you don't owe nobody, it could be the most wonderful time of year to go ahead and have the whole tax process out of the way. So tax time is really Christmas time for adults. But for some people, it can also be a nightmare. And this is where you two fit in, right? So you both taken on this profession to help people with their taxes and other financial services. So let's begin with you all telling us a bit more about your business. You just told us about your mission, financial services, and where we currently rank. And I know there is a great need for that within the state of Mississippi, within our community, particularly among African Americans. So what motivated you, I guess, besides those things in itself, what motivated you to start this business? And was it a dream that both of you had? Because clearly we know that we now know that both of you have other things going on. Like you're a nurse and you're a PhD student. Like, so where did this come from? Like, was it a dream both of you had, or is it something like one of you wanted to do and the other person was like, we're in this together. I'll do it with you.
I think I'll answer it to you.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did in order to start the business and things of that nature is we did a family plan. So what we did first was write out a vision. So one of the things that we're focusing on is faith, family, and festivities. Faith, of course, being getting closer to God individually and also as a family. Faith, family is the second one. Getting closer to family in general, make sure we call our family, make sure we're getting closer as a family and talk about creating a family and things like that. And the last one is festivities. Make sure we enjoy the time that we have, go on trips and things like that, and just enjoy each other, enjoy life in general. So one of the goals that we did was every year, the first day of the year or a little bit before that or after, is we do a yearly family plan. So one of the things that we have for last year is to start a business. So, and we wrote down a few things what we want to start. For example, if we wanted to franchise a restaurant, or going to do another business or things like that. And one of the things was taxes. Taxes has a very low startup. So for both of us to get started and to start the LLC and things like that, it was significantly cheaper to start a tax business and to learn those skills as opposed to other things. Because of course we're still students and she's just going into the workforce. So it's a low startup to start it. And also we wanted to, of course, do something to help the community. And I think financial education is very important to help our community.
I think along the way as well, like to piggyback off what you just said, along the way with all the studying that came along with, getting the tax information, came with a whole lot more information on what we can share with the people in our community that we didn't know. So to share that information and to help somebody else in their financial situation, we thought it was going to be very fulfilling to help others in that way.
Okay. So when y'all was doing the plan, who put taxes down? Because I was like, okay, so it was yours, but it was easy to kind of like get on board with. And once you all learn more about it, like, again, the significance of it is ginormous. Like, I don't know why they're not teaching us this in school.
Exactly.
Yeah, we learned so much, like, dang, we really should have learned this in school. Like, there's some information it would really have helped, to kickstart our adulthood if we would have known a lot of these.
Definitely. Like, what I know now, I think I would have done so many things differently. Even being that young, you would think that you were probably not making the most wise decisions, or we probably don't have like the maturity. But I disagree. Like, first of all, we could have been doing totally different things with our refund checks, like just putting money in different places had we known, or not getting them refund checks,
Exactly.
Had we known the things that we know now. And so it's like where we are in our 20s, I think we're all kind of still around that 20s age bracket. So where we are now, we're just now hearing some of this stuff for the first time. And I already know y'all finna say some stuff during this segment that I have never heard. And it's probably just gonna blow my mind. But that's kind of terrible that we're just now getting to this point in our lives, doing the things we're doing, and this is still new information. So again, it's amazing what you're doing. And we know there seems to be a lot of uncertainty and confusion about finances just in general. And taxes have become especially daunting as we've gotten older, and it became, more complicated. For example, I made a Facebook post about taxes last year, sometime early before like all the COVID stuff broke out and completely took our focus off everything. So it was I think it was my first full year since undergrad. And I was working my first real job. No. So my first full year out of grad school. And I was working my first real job because I had jobs through grad school, but they don't count as much. And then I was still in school, but like I'm done with school. I'm only working. And so like the money looked different apart from like all of my work study. So that's what I mean. Undergrad, I had like these different work study jobs. And through grad school, I had like several more work study jobs. But now it's like I'm completely done with school. I ain't going for no PhD. So back, more power to you. I said, I'm done. I'm not doing that no more. I'm just gonna get a job and I'm just gonna focus on that. And so I was salaried and it felt like I was getting a refund check every month. And, not because I was just making so much, but how I felt when refunds hit, right? And now I was getting it every 2 weeks. So it's like, yes, I got money. I'm all excited, things like that. But of course, the downside was the money you see coming out of those same checks. See, when you see that with them refunds, we just took it and balled out. So now it's like, I'm grown. I got this job getting paid every 2 weeks, but all this money is coming out, right? And so, but what I was left with was suitable for where I was, in life. I'm currently not married and I don't have any kids. So what I was making was suitable. Even after taxes, like I was able to live comfortably off of it. But when it came time for me to do my taxes, my tax preparer was like, did you go to school or something this year? And I'm like, no. And I guess she was hoping she could use like the education credit or something to help me out, but I couldn't. Like I was well out of school, so I wasn't getting that 1098 or whatever they were sending out, to help with that. And that's when I first encountered like the notion of not having enough money coming out of my check, right? You already feel like enough is coming out. Anything more than what they tell you is your beginning salary. Anything less than that, you've already took too much out of my check. Okay. I don't want you to have no more. So it's the fact that like I came in and you sit me down in HR and you give me this W-4 form, the form W-4, I think that's the one that determined. And so I'm like, I filled it out correctly. I told you I ain't got no dependents. I ain't got none of that stuff. So what more can I do? So I tell you that. And I feel like it's just kind of up to you at that point. I'm counting on you to get what you need based off the information I gave you to pull the necessary amount out of my checks. So it's like, clearly enough wasn't coming back out, long story short, and I had to pay. And the lady was like, you can ask them to take out more. Now, why would I want to do that? Like, I don't even want you taking out what you're taking out. So why would I want you to take out more? Like, I'm just going to invite you to get more, what you already getting. So either way, that's what led me to get on Facebook, as I commonly do. And what I said was, somebody needs to help me understand taxation when you're single with no kids and not in school. And I had a few other women to comment on that same post, and they agreed. And one even made a comment that we're getting gypped as single, childless women. So that led me to the next question that I have for you. Are single people really getting taxed more than married people? Or is that just a myth and something that we come up with in our heads?
So there's a couple things you need to consider when you're looking at a single person. So first thing first, you should definitely look at that W-4 form to make sure it's filled out correctly. Okay, I would like to back up a little bit. It's okay to pay a little because if you're getting a refund, that means that you're giving the government a interest-free loan for that whole year, and you'll get it back at the end of the year. So you're giving the government an interest-free loan for the whole year, and you're going to get it back at the end of the year. So your goal is to minimize that liability as much as possible, being zero, or even if you have to pay a little bit back, to make sure you get most of your money during the year. So I know you don't want to take out a little more chunk of it during the year. So be sure to make sure that W-4 form is right. And it's okay to pay a little bit back because you don't want to give the government a interest-free loan.
Right.
Okay.
Because when you think about it, say for instance, you owe, right? And when you pay, let's say for instance, you took a while to pay them back, right? They're going to charge you interest on what you owe them. But if you pay more into them and you get a refund, they give it back to you with no interest. Does that make sense? So I would say, in our professional opinion, it would be best to pay as much as you can during the year. So when you get time to pay your tax, well, for tax time, you won't have to worry about a refund and them not giving you interest on the money that they kept. Does that make sense?
Yes. So
I also like to add, I would also like to talk a little bit about the standard deduction. Okay. So for example, if you're single, your standard deduction is $12,400 for this tax year, as opposed to if you're married, filing jointly, which is $24,800. Okay, so that means that our income combined will be then we're going to subtract that standard deduction, and then that's going to become our taxable income. And it works the same for a single person. And also, there's tax brackets that you need to understand in order to know how you're being taxed. For example, we could have a married filing jointly person in, for example, the 22% tax bracket, and also have a single person in that same tax bracket. So it may seem like you're getting taxed more, but the standard deduction should make it balance out. Because if you divide the standard deduction for the marriage filing jointly person, it'll be the same amount for the two single people. Okay. But there's other factors. There's other factors that play into it.
Yeah.
For example, you talked about single women with no dependents or no kids. If you have dependents, that means you qualify for another bracket called the
child tax credits and
the child tax credit. I was talking about the bracket. I can't remember.
Which one?
Head of household.
Oh.
The head of household status. So the head of household status standard deduction is $18,650 for this tax year. So you see the difference between single and head of household. So that means you're going to have a higher standard deduction in comparison to single, and you have children. That means you're going to get the child tax credit, the earned income credit, and you can get a deduction for childcare expenses. So that's why you see most people get these huge refunds, because they're going to be filing head of household if they're not married. If they're not married, they'll file head of household. So they're going to get this extra deduction, also these other credits that makes their refund $5,000 and $6,000, when a single person's refund is about $300.
So really, it's really about the same. It's just the way that it's broken up. You would think, hey, they're taxing me more because I'm in the same tax bracket as these married filing joint people. Well, it's just one of me. It looks like I'm getting taxed more. Well, when you think about it, they're counting it as if the money is split in half between those two individual people. So that's why it looks like it could be taxed more, but really it's
So it's kind of fair. So essentially what it sounds like, I know it might hurt our little feelings. It's like, man, it's like, now hold on, you got kids and we make the same, we do the same job, but I do understand it, and it does make sense. So I see why everybody be trying to run out and get them doggone dependents, but you know, you're gonna take my little $300.
Oh yeah.
I ain't gotta spend it on no Pampers. So I'm just gonna let that be that. But it sounds like we definitely need to be mindful of that Form W-4, and we can go and change that anytime with our HR people, right? So it sounds like
to add with the W-4 form, with those people who have dependents, maybe they also are not filling the form out correctly, because there is a part on the W-4 form that asks you how many children or dependents do you have. And for each dependent, you should get $2,000 in the child tax credit. But if they don't put that on there, that means that the government is going to be pulling a little bit more out of their check each paycheck.
Which gives them a bigger
refund at the end of the year. Again, that's that interest-free loan that we're talking about. So you need to make sure that your W-4 form is correct, and you will get most of that money during the year, and your tax liability will be minimum at the end of the year.
Okay, so single people is not that bad on us. They just not giving us as many breaks. Sounds like it. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I can deal with that. But as long, like I said, I'm glad we covered about the Form W-4 because I think that's something a lot of people need to go back and look for, especially if you're gonna do the task of asking them to take out more money. I know it's gonna hurt, but it sounds like it may pay off more at the end. And quite honestly, that's what I've been told, to just avoid having to pay back in altogether. So sounds like a necessary adjustment. It'll hurt a little, but it sounds like it'll help a lot. So,
Right.
Okay. So I know I talked earlier about how it would be beneficial for us to know this information a lot earlier when I was younger in undergrad, stuff like that. So throughout undergrad, I was not filing my own taxes. I was still a dependent. One of my parents was still carrying me. But after undergrad, I did start filing taxes because I had worked for a while, a grown-up job. I'm not saying grown-up job. I really just feel like we are still those kids. My goodness. So I worked a job after college for a while before I moved for grad school. And of course, I was earning enough to be filing my own taxes. And the process changed only a bit after I got out of school, because remember, I couldn't claim that school stuff. And it really changed my refund because I didn't have that luxury. But I haven't undergone any major changes since then. But you two have gotten married since you probably filed your first taxes for the first time, I assume. So how does the process of filing taxes look for you now as a couple versus when you were single, as far as unmarried? Because you might have been together, like boyfriend and girlfriend, but you ain't putting boyfriend. Listen, America, you ain't putting boyfriend and girlfriend on your tax paper. I don't care how long you've been together. You're going to check what? Single.
Single, yeah. You can't do that.
And so how does that look now that you all are married? How does the process look any different from not getting married to getting married?
Honestly, I believe our first year we had to end up paying. Yeah, we ended up paying tax because our W-4 forms were wrong and we didn't know. So yours was single and you weren't even getting.
It was single and I was on the fellowship, so they weren't taking out. The Social Security and Medicare tax.
Right.
Therefore, I had to pay that at the end of the year, and I didn't even know about it. And
when I started my job, I did put married filing joint on mine, but we didn't know that it would affect us that much, and we had to pay. Well, it was like $300.
Yeah, $300
for that tax return for that tax year.
Yes.
And we're like, oh, maybe we should really pay attention to that.
So was it that like you didn't change your W-4s like right after you got married? Because I know like the women know you go get your license changed and all that kind of stuff. But so you just went back to work like, oh, it's regular day, I'm at work, and you just didn't think about it like, I might need to change that because it doesn't look the same anymore.
Actually, I finished school and then I started my first like real job. So when I started my first real job, we were married. So it was easier to just do it then. I didn't have to go and change anything. I just filled out the correct way the first time.
However, on my end, I was already working. So I didn't really think about changing the W-4 form. This is before we became tax preparers. So I would like to add that if you have any life changes, for example, if you have a child, if you get married, if you get divorced, you need to change your W-4 form immediately.
Right.
Because you may end up owing a lot back in taxes because of that.
Right.
So anytime you have a life change, you should update your W-4 form.
Right.
Okay. And I'm glad y'all covered that because I just don't feel like I said, we hear about the women like having to go get their license changed, changing your name on stuff like that. But I never would think about it. I really would think I would just go on back to work. Of course, you got a new pep in your step because you got a new husband and wife. You know,
bring on that.
Yeah. But I would not think about marching up to HR. I was like, yes, let me redo that Form W-4. Okay. So so essentially was a process like pretty much the same. You just wait on that time of year, you call up your person, the paperwork, does any of that stuff look different? Like, I'm trying to think about what's all involved. Like, is there
pretty much the same.
Pretty much the same.
I gather my W-2s, he gathers his W-2s. If we have any interest in any like stocks, gather that paperwork. If we have retirement accounts, gather that paperwork.
Your 1098Ts and things like that.
Yeah, your 1098Ts.
It's pretty much the same thing
Yeah.
you would do if you were single.
Right.
Just make sure you have all your documents for yourself individually, and she have all of her documents for herself individually, and also things you may have together now.
Right.
And you just went to the tax preparer's office and things like that. But I would like to add that I used to do my taxes on my own
Mm-hmm.
before I became, a husband. But once I tried to do them on my own, once I got married, I had a huge tax bill, and I just wanted to pay that. So I had to go to a tax preparer in order to get the taxes done, and they actually got the tax liability down a lot more than what I could have done as a person who wasn't a tax preparer at the time.
Because of course they are knowledgeable about all the laws, the current laws, what you can be eligible for based on your certain situation. So when we were doing it ourselves, I think we owe like $800, and I was like, oh, we probably should just go to a tax preparer.
Yeah.
So we went there, and she got it down to like 300. She was like, yeah, you qualify for this and that, and I was like, okay, cool.
Now
you didn't know that you can deduct.
Right.
So it's very important to consult a tax preparer, because sometimes you don't know what you can and cannot deduct from your daily living expenses and things like that. And
for example, good example, we give tithes.
Mm-hmm.
You can deduct that on your taxes.
What?
As long as you have your forms to document it, you have to have the documentation.
And the church should give you that. The church should give you the documentation.
And when she told us that, we were like, yeah, we have it on our phone. We have the app. Do you want to see it?
And now you know what? After all these years, and people pay, I don't think I ain't gonna say too much, because I don't want to call out nobody. Churches and stuff. I'm gonna have to go and say, Pastor, listen, I need my records.
Oh yeah, record of tithe. Then they should give you one at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also this year, since COVID, if you gave charitable contributions, which are tithes, they actually have a $300 above the line tax deduction specifically for the charitable contributions. Right. So you could look forward to that if you're giving more than $300 in tithes.
Right.
I bet you I'm getting my calculator out to see if I gave more. I'm pretty sure I did, but I kind of keep track of my own tithes anyway because it's in my budget. So I'm gonna go back and see. And if I gave more than $300, I am finna go. Them deacons gonna hear from me.
Up to $300.
Up to $300. But if you're itemizing, itemized deductions are beautiful because you can deduct way more than the standard deduction on if you have, for example, the charitable contributions, if you have high medical expenses, if you own rental properties and you can depreciate those things, or you have mortgage expenses and things like that, you can deduct more than your standard deduction, which is beautiful. And if you also own a business, it's even sweeter than that. So.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let me see. Tithes. Let me go start a business. Let me. Now, itemized is when you keep the receipts on everything, right?
Everything.
Yes, everything.
It's similar to owning a business, but you can get a higher deduction if you itemize and it's greater than your standard deduction. Right. So, for example, if you're single and you're getting the 12,400 in the standard deduction, if you itemize and you have the receipts to show, you can get more than the 12,400 in the standard deduction. It'll be quite more if you own things like real estate, you have high medical expenses, high charitable contributions, and things like that. You can get more deducted.
Wow. So
your standard is 12,400 and your receipt bill up to 20, you can deduct all that.
Yeah.
What? See, okay. See, y'all, I said y'all was gonna teach me something. So all the receipts that be on the floor and in my purses and stuff, I'm finna go get all of them and see if it's something useful. Cause I need to get to $20,000. Right. I need to get to 20,000 because 12,400 ain't getting it. And I need to get to 20,000. Or I need to go back to school. One of the other school probably a little easier.
Oh yeah.
Get to.
Also, if you're paying student loans, you get a deduction too.
Yep.
Well, after a while they froze them for the year. So I was paying up until that time. That was part of my regular budget too. But when they say you ain't gotta pay no more, I ain't gonna lie to you.
Well, you can only get it for the interest. So I think it was March when they stopped the student loan payments. So the first 3 months of the year, you can deduct that interest.
Yeah. And I'm sure I paid some interest. So I'm looking to all of that. I knew y'all was gonna teach me something, but I think I did that too. It just simply was not enough. Whatever I was doing, it still wasn't quite enough. So yeah. So again, to kind of like recap, because I know we ended up touching on a lot, but a lot that I know I needed to know. So like when people get engaged, it doesn't sound like too much is gonna have to change. If people are like transitioning from single to married, the process is still kind of gonna look similar. Just make sure you go and change that W-4. And then when you mention, I'm glad you mentioned about doing it on your own, because currently where I'm at, people are like, oh, you single, do it yourself. Just get this form. It's super easy, blah, 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 blah. But like I say, when you got married, and it was best that you go and consult with someone, considering like the law changes and things like that you didn't even know you could like take advantage of now. So I think that's very important for people to think about and keep in mind, because what you may be doing on your own, it sounds like it may not be completely sufficient for your new needs as a married couple.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I also would like to mention, I just thought about it. Say, for instance, another thing that would change if you were married and filing your taxes together, if your partner owes something to the IRS,
yes,
you are now liable.
Yes.
Oh, that is
unless you file the injured spouse form.
Yes.
Now, if you don't file the injured spouse form, then both of you are liable for his like debt.
So, for example, if I had a child and owed child support and I didn't pay it, the IRS will automatically garnish our refund.
Right.
So if we get a refund together, it'll automatically garnish it.
Yeah.
However, there is a loophole around it. So, for example, if I had the child before we were married, she can file for this thing called an injured spouse allocation. It's basically saying that this person didn't know your tax situation before you got married, and she can get her portion of the refund, but mine will automatically get taken.
Right.
So injured don't mean like workplace injury or nothing. Because I'm thinking lie about me. It's injured because you hurt me. Because they didn't hurt you hurt your pockets.
Yes.
Hurt your pockets. Yeah.
Yes.
Because they named that form right. Or if you done got our whole refund garnished because of your back child support, I'm finna injure you.
Right.
Yeah. And it can also be student loans and other types of debt. So if you're behind on student loans and you're delinquent or something like that in collection,
it can garnish
it automatically.
Yes.
Wow.
It's important that you tell your spouse that, because you're expecting a refund and like, okay, when is it coming? And you talking to your tax professional and they're like, you know.
And sometimes the tax professional may not know,
right? Because
the IRS does it. But there is a hotline you can call to see if you actually owe something to the Department of Treasury.
And so that's likely if you're in like default on things, right? Or like back child support. Because like, of course, I have
child support collection. Yes.
Okay.
Back child support collection. So if you miss like one payment on your student loan, they're not gonna come garnish your tax.
Good. Because I have student loans, and I don't want my future husband running away to my girl. Now you got them student loans. I ain't gonna marry you. It's like I'm paying them. Like, we good. You won't be injured. You won't be injured yet. Wow. And that was actually my very next question. Can you assume like the liability and debts like of your spouse? So I am so glad you said that, because now when I got another question to add to my list of my first date questions.
I think that may be too soon. Maybe the third or fourth date.
That was gonna be my other question. Is it too soon? When is a good time to ask them? Look, when they down on their knee and he got the ring, like, I love you so much, you be like, yes, but they be gonna tell you, because you figure he gonna be so happy. I owe about $100,000 in student loans back. I ain't paid them since I left school. They've been searching for me. Kristen ain't even my name, but I do. Yes.
I think it's very important going into marriage, especially. You should definitely talk about the finances and the baggage that you have when it comes to finances, because it could really cripple your relationship. If, for example, if you want to have children and you really can't afford it because you're paying $800 a month in student loans and a child is, very expensive. So those are things you should talk about, especially things like credit. If your credit score is good,
money management
and things like that. That's very important in a relationship as well.
You have to be on one accord.
Yeah.
Yes.
For
Yes.
Sure. And finances is a deal breaker for a lot of people. You need to make sure that you're on one accord with your finances, because that could cause a lot of divorces and problems in the marriage.
Yeah, now we do know that, and I'm glad y'all like went into some of the ins and outs as far as what are some of those aspects, because I think we often hear like money can be a problem, but honestly, I think you might have given a few people just a few more questions to ask, and hopefully people will realize that it's not a deterrent per se, but it's just all about preparation and to enter into these situations and relationships simply more prepared, right? And not blindsided, because I feel like if it's one thing, if you're dealing with somebody that's honest and transparent, which you would hope they are, and if they not, there's probably room enough to know, like, I probably shouldn't be doing this. But if they are honest and open and transparent, if you are at that point where they can discuss these things with you, I really think it makes for the chances of your relationship lasting and surviving, because you can plan. It's one, like, if I'm married and I'm excited, like, yes, I got this awesome person, got a whole life ahead of us, and you turn around and they drop this bomb on you. Now I'm going to get this injured spouse form because you ain't paid for none of them kids. And I'm thinking you a good dad. He's a great dad. He gets his kids all the time. But you just ain't been paying this. You've been handing the money to her. And y'all ain't been doing it according to y'all court-ordered agreement. And now they trying to come get my Tesla. And they trying to come get whatever he driving. And it's like, if you knew those things, you could probably do something to salvage the marriage. But I feel like once that bomb is dropped, I think that's when people want to be like, for better or worse. Okay, but we could have avoided some of this worse now.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I think that upfront transparency and communication is very important in a relationship to get you to that next step. Because if you don't communicate and understand the next person's total situation, it's going to be harder going forward. You just can't assume things and go into the marriage.
Right. Honestly, before we were married, we started doing our finances together. As when we were engaged. Yeah. We started doing it together. We made an Excel form and put all our stuff in there, and we started working together. At that point, we were engaged for what, a year? Year and a half.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
So at that point, we had already started doing that, so it was easier. Like once you are married, just continue that process.
Mm-hmm. We were engaged. We had one bank account together. So we got a bank account together after we got engaged, maybe in like August, and we just had one bank account while we were still engaged. So we were becoming one before we became one.
Oh, you done preached the word right there. You done preached the word right there. Y'all was making them steps, making preparation, but no, that really does sound good, and it sounds wise and smart. Now, I just want to get in your business just a little bit, because you mentioned a bank account. So if you like, Kristen, you don't need to know all that, my business. When you got the one bank account, so did you consolidate like all of them, and y'all just had that one?
Yes.
Put it all in.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's some trust.
Yeah, one checking and one saving.
Yeah, one checking.
Yeah. That is so interesting, because if I can just be honest, if I was engaged right now, and of course you're planning for a whole future, but I just feel like if my fiance was like, come on, let's go put it all in right now. And I guess that shows some level of commitment and determination. I feel like I wouldn't mind pooling resources for sure, depending on what we have in mind, what we're working towards. But I just can't honestly say that I would put all of it. I think I would have to save me a little something.
Yeah.
I guess, but
let me put it like this. If you're a college student, you don't have much anyway, so
true. And we were college students.
So, what we had together, we made do, because we were in two different locations right after we got engaged.
Right.
Because I was still at Mississippi State doing my PhD, and she went up to Memphis to do her nursing school.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good that we had it together, because once, if I got paid, because she didn't actually make much. Yeah. So she was actually using, most of my resources.
Yeah.
So
that did work out, because I was just thinking like, whoa, wait, I don't know, like it sounds like y'all get
college students you don't have much money. So,
I mean, you can run off of my little $15, however far they get you. I guess once you kind of a little further along, and it's like, well, I may not have a lot, but and I guess that's something that goes to show you maybe the type of discussions again and the level of trust people need to be having before they be getting engaged, because what are you really communicating to this person? If I have accepted your ring and I'm working towards this point in life, is it that time where I could be showing that I trust you to this extent? I guess the only reason that kind of surprised me, and it's not unheard of, because you are not the first couple that I know that has done that. But I guess I always wonder with myself, considering that some engagements do get called off, I do wonder, like, dang, if they did all that, now not only have you broken up, we've already put things together. So now I got to figure out how to get my money back.
Right.
It's going to be nice enough to get it back, because both of y'all names on the account, they can go wipe it all out, run and block you on everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think now that would boil down to the type of person that you're trying to marry now.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point when we were engaged, I knew the type of man he was. And I know for a fact, if we didn't get married, we just would have split what we put in.
Yeah.
But we weren't getting to that point.
It just comes to that level of trust and communication where you're able to let your guard down, or you should always guard your heart, of course, as biblically speaking, but you can let your guard down in a sense because you can trust and confide in this person.
Right.
Yes.
And it also doesn't mean like just because you're sharing an account. I know some of my friends have they were scared to do that with their husbands. Like, just because you share an account, they're like, well, I don't want him to see what I spent, or I don't want him to tell me what I can do with my money. Well, when the way I look at it, if we make big purchases, like if he go and buy like a PlayStation, we need to discuss that. That's $300, $400.
Yeah.
We should have that discussion. But if I want to go get my nails done, toes done, something like that, well, that's expensive, right. So I just go do it. So really, it's just those big purchases. We sit down, we have that conversation. Are you okay with that? What do you think about that? It's the big ticket items that we do that for.
And I would also like to add, if the bills are paid and you have extra, there should be pretty much no problem. So if you're a type of person that's spending the light bill money, now there's a problem.
That's a problem.
Yes, you don't know who you married. He got a gambling problem.
Right. And that's the stuff you should know before you marry them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, y'all have touched on a lot right there. But I'm glad we segued into that, because I'm like, ooh, that could be a big risk. But you're right. Like, I think that's a level of conversation that a lot of people are not having. And that's a level of trust and knowledge of the other person that a lot of people simply are not getting to before they commit themselves to somebody. And I really think that speaks to the vision that you all have for your marriage.
Right.
Exactly.
And what you was doing, because some people just planning weddings.
I was just about to say that. It's the big hype about the wedding and the honeymoon, but you have to come back and live reality too. Mm-hmm. So you can't just look forward to the wedding, because you're not getting married for the wedding. You're getting married to spend your life with this person. Yeah. Are you really going to be committed? Marriage is work.
Yes,
so, my grandpa, they were married for 30, 40 something years. Yeah. Every day it's not going to be easy. Every day you're not going to like each other, but you'll forever love each other, and you have to work hard at this marriage. And now that we're married, honestly, it's not like, super hard and I'm crying every day trying to make this work tight. Married, it's actually simple. It's easy. Just communicate, talk.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to have that discussion, but it needs to be said.
Right. And I think some people go into marriage like grudgingly, like already expecting to pull teeth. And I'm like, who is y'all marrying?
Yeah.
Like, if y'all feel this way, how did y'all manage to get a ring? And like, how did you feel going through all of that? It's like some people already have their escape route in mind. And I'm like, that could have been part of the problem, like right there. And that's why it seems like people are in the marriage ring, but they're in opposite corners of the ring. It's like you planning to fight all the way through it, and people be like, well, that's marriage. Marriage is disagreeing and fighting and arguing. Like, oh, I'm like, who's gonna be doing all that with you? You weren't me.
Yeah.
You weren't
that's one
me.
of the biggest things. Like, you always have to know that it's you and your spouse against the issue. And when you're having a disagreement or something, you have to make sure that you're selfless and also speak with love, as opposed to speaking at this person, talking at this person. Try to communicate, the situation or the issue, and it'll come off better than saying, why you doing this? Why you doing that? And you can get somewhere, as opposed to just talking at someone.
Yes.
Not to seem like we're perfect, because sometimes we do have those moments like, Derek, leave me alone. Like, but we do have, great communication to where we can actually come and sit down and have an adult conversation and talk about the issue, where we don't have to scream across the living room,
That's right.
To get my point across. I don't have to do that.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. Like, that's amazing. And it's such an inspiration. And I feel like we definitely need to see more of that. I think I need to keep having these married couples on Degree Single segments. That might just need to be for the married couples, because y'all really be teaching us something. And again, I feel like this is the perfect time. And I'm surrounded by a lot of successful marriages. Some people like, you ain't married by Jab. I've seen enough marriages. That's why I take my time getting up in that thing, because I already know what it's about. But thankfully, the ones I'm surrounded by, of course, I'm not in them day in and day out, but with the knowledge that I have of them, they're beautiful, they're fulfilling, uplifting on both ends, sacrifices made on both ends, but like the payoff, the reward is great on both sides. So I'm always glad to see that and hear couples that talk about how to make marriage productive, constructive, and healthy on both sides, and you're actually enjoying it. So speaking of the marriage aspect, I know one of my last questions was the business name Tax Mates. Considering that y'all are married, was that like a play on words because y'all are mates doing taxes together?
Honestly, I came up with the name, and I was at work one day, and I believe I was in my baby's isolate and doing something, and I was like, Tax Mates, because we were just brainstorming like
we were brainstorming for days,
a lot, and just coming up with random names, and I was like, Tax Mates, I like that. I like the way that sounds. It's simple, it's easy, and I texted to him when I was at work, and he was like, I like that. Yeah, I think we can go with that. And
okay, now that makes, because I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if this was intentional, because y'all are literally like mates. Each other's life partner, you're married, and so it's like Tax Mates, and so I don't know, I didn't know if that came from that, but if that wasn't
I think we'll take your story.
Like, that is so clever, Tax Mates. But hey, I mean, it still worked out, so clearly the name was like meant to be. So dun 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 dun, what is it like being in business with your spouse?
I think it's fun. I like, being home, first of all. I like being home and in our office, and we're brainstorming together, we're working together to figure out, because some people really have difficult tax situations, and we brainstorm and pivot off of each other to figure out what's best for that person. And that teamwork, I think it helps a lot with our communication outside of our business as well. It makes it easier for us to discuss issues. I love it. I think it's fun.
Yeah, I honestly love it as well. And the beautiful thing is we're working beside each other.
Right.
So we're not away from each other at work, any other place. We don't have to just text each other. We can actually turn and talk to each other.
Right.
And I think that's very important, especially if you're in love and enjoy your marriage. You don't want to be around this person all the time. And it's just a beautiful thing where we could, talk to each other and also get, a job done. So.
That is amazing. And again, you're helping the community, the culture, literally households, people, financial situations, and their livelihood. So that's amazing. So I would like to say, if there are couples that are considering going into business together, what is something that you would say is very rewarding about being in business with your spouse?
Something very rewarding. I will still pivot off the thing I just said a little bit earlier, just being around her the whole time, because that's the reason we got married, to be around the person or be with the person. And I feel that I've enjoyed the time, studying together, trying to understand more tax laws with the person that I married and love. And it also, of course, helped our communication, and, in the stressful situations, it helps just help our marriage overall, because we can talk to each other in love and figure things out when things aren't necessarily going the way we want them to go.
Right.
Okay. And of course, so we talked about the rewards. So just to be fair, what is a challenge that couples may need to prepare for, if they can, or at least consider ahead of time before going into business with each other?
You want to know?
I have to think about it.
Okay,
Challenge.
I have one. It comes back to, for example, communication, finances. So, of course, we just discussed a little bit about communication. So if you can't communicate and you're always at each other's throat, basically, it's going to be hard to do business with each other, because you need to be a well-oiled machine when customers are calling and things like that. You need to understand how this person reacts in certain situations. And it's very important to understand this person's chemistry in the business, also when you're married. The next one is the finances. If you can't handle finances personally, business finances is much harder.
Yeah.
And it's different, because the business can go under if you're not managing those finances correctly.
Keeping proper receipts.
Keeping proper receipts, keeping your books together and things like that. So if you're not managing the money correctly in your home, it's going to be difficult to do the same thing in your business. And that's very important, to be on one accord when you're handling the finances in marriage and in business.
Okay. Good. No, that is extremely important. And I didn't even think about like the finance part. Like, you can't manage it personally. Ooh, wait, I know there's some arguments right there. And don't let the business go under. Well, if you have
right. Oh, and another thing, consistency. You have to be consistent. In a business, you can't just one day do everything you need to do for your business and you're like, oh, that was a long day, like you would do at a regular job and just go home and do whatever you do at home. In a business, it kind of feels like it's like around the clock. Like, you have something to do, and it has to be done. So even when you're feeling bad and you don't feel like getting up, you want to lay on the bed and watch TV, you have to get up and do what you have to do. So determination and consistency. It will,
it'll take you a long way, and definitely in business.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think this conversation has been absolutely amazing. I know I done kept y'all for quite some time, so I'm getting ready to let y'all go. But this has just been amazing, and I knew this conversation would just run itself. So I am so pleased. Thank you all for being my guests.
You're welcome.
A wealth of information has been shared here, and I'm certain that listeners are going to benefit from hearing it all. So quickly, I want to give you all a chance to shout out anything that you have going on, anything you want to publicize, and anything that we can support. We know that you all have TaxMates LLC, so however we should reach you, or any specials or business hours, just let us know.
Okay, so we are taking clients right now. The tax filing season starts February 12th, but we can get you in as soon as possible if you have all your tax documents. You can contact us on our website at www.taxmatesllc.com. You can give us a call at 662-205-4035, or you can find us on social media. We're always on social media trying to advertise and talk and educate people about tax situations. And our handles on social media, Facebook and Instagram, is at Go TaxMates. Okay. So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and we will gladly serve you if you need your taxes done this tax season.
Okay. And we're also doing a referral program where we're offering $50 per referral that you send to us, and they get their taxes done by us. And so every time you send us someone and they get their taxes done by us, we'll be sending you $50 a total check at the end of tax season. So we'll keep up with it, and we'll let you know what your total is as we're going.
In addition to that, with that $50 referral, we're also doing a $500 giveaway for the people who are referring people. So each time you refer somebody, your name are going to be added to this pile, and we're going to draw at the end of tax season. And if you win, you win a $500 gift card in addition to each $50 that you have referred.
And a Dave Ramsey program boxes that we have to help them organize their finances. So you get the $500 gift card and the Dave Ramsey financial coaching.
Yes.
Okay, so listen, if you listening to this and you decide to go to TaxMates and get your taxes done, you tell them I found y'all on the Degree Single video Kristen sent me. Yes. And so is there like a location, like boundary or something? So anybody from anywhere can utilize your services?
Yes. So right now we're doing everything virtual because of the COVID-19 virus. We're trying to minimize to contact as much as possible. Mm-hmm. So what we'll do is have a Zoom virtual consultation similar to this video, and we'll talk about your tax situation, get a client intake form together to get all the documents necessary in order to accurately file your tax return. And after that, we'll just do a follow-up consultation, and we'll break down each page of your tax return, mm-hmm. and so you can understand exactly why you may receive a refund or if you have to pay back. Okay.
Yeah. So everybody, anywhere, when y'all get wind of this, yes, if you would like for Derek and Renee to handle your taxes, that is definitely possible. So yes, I would love to see that. Can't wait to see how the season goes for you all. I'm hoping people really take advantage of the services and the wealth of knowledge that you all have shared with us. I'm very excited for you and the prosperity of you all's business and marriage and your future just in general. So now, yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for being here. So real quick, I got to shout out my team that made this production possible. So shout out to myself. Thank me so much. And and you all as my guests. And my music is by Jervis McGee of Jervis McGee Music. So thank you to all the listeners who will be tuning in, and be sure to follow Degree Single on Instagram and Facebook, and to stay connected and subscribe to Degree Single on YouTube for additional content. I will look for you in the comment section.
I just want you right now. Nothing else matters right now. Can I get you by yourself somehow and show you how I really get down? I just wanna show you where I live, baby. We can talk and chill. Baby girl, I'ma keep it real. So baby girl, tell me what's the deal. Hey.